When I was a kid, I was inspired by Star Wars to be an astronaut. The epic space battles made me want to blast off to the stars and explore this new frontier. When I got older and I realised that real-life spaceflight wasn't like Star Wars, that ambition got a new direction towards becoming a pilot. I attended a high school with a specialist aviation program, and even though my career path took me away from aviation, I managed to go solo in a glider. So you can imagine my joy when I found X-Wing, a flight sim in the Star Wars galaxy. Finally, I could experience space flight for myself. If you've been keeping up with my videos, you'll know that it's a contest between X-Wing and Super Star Wars for the first Star Wars game I ever played. And it's with trepidation that I play X-Wing for this episode of Star Wars Playtime. Great shot, kid. Now let's blow this thing and go home. Oh, hello. Well, as you can see, X-Wing has influenced a lot of my life. For a long time, it guided my study choices, and I still love it. Look, I'm playing with the freaking Lego X-Wing. It's been a while since I've played a Star Wars flight sim game. The last one, X-Wing Alliance, was released in 1999, and yeah, we've had the Rogue Squadron games since then, but they've never quite reached the heights of the X-Wing series. Don't get me wrong, they're great games and you should definitely play them. See the first video in this series already. But they just don't have the intricacies that X-Wing had. I've still got my X-Wing Collector's CD-ROM sitting there, and of course, trusty old DOS box to boot it up in. So let's load it and see how we go. Before I started playing it again, I had no idea how big X-Wing Collector's CD-ROM is. It contains the original X-Wing game, plus the 2 expansions, Imperial Pursuit and B-Wing. That's 5 tours of duties with over 70 missions, 30 training missions, and the training grounds, 8 levels of obstacles for each of the 4 spacecraft. That is a crazy number of missions. Tour of Duty 1 follows the Rebellion pilots as they protect new allies and concludes with the destruction of the Invincible, a Star Destroyer that has been hunting you all tour. The second tour of duty has you investigating rumours of a new weapon, a top secret Imperial project with the power to wipe out the Rebellion. This tour finishes with you protecting the Tantive 4 as it carries plans vital to the survival of the Rebellion. The third and originally final tour of duty follows the Rebel pilots as they plan and gear up for an attack on the first Death Star. The Imperial Pursuit and B-Wing expansions tell of the Rebellion evacuating from Yavin 4 and establishing a new base on Hoth. The B-Wing expansion also introduces the B-Wing bomber as flyable spacecraft. The music is vintage Star Wars. There's nothing like flying around with the classic soundtrack playing. You really get the feel that you're in Star Wars. The variety of craft and different roles they fill is great as well. The X-Wing is a balanced craft designed for dogfighting. The Y-Wing is a bomber with extra missile capacity and ion cannons for disabling other craft. And the A-Wing is fast and agile, but also fragile. But this is where my heart started to break. The game does not play well. Even at the highest graphics setting, it's still too blocky to play. I ended up having to increase the CPU cycles through DOSBox to get it running half decently, and even then it was still jaggy. Then there was the joystick I was using. I have a Logitech Extreme 3D Pro, which has 12 buttons plus a throttle, but the game only took advantage of 3 of them, and the throttle wasn't one. I ended up using a program called Joy2Key, which mapped keyboard keys to buttons on the joystick. It doesn't remap the joystick buttons, as you can't override existing buttons, but it makes the unused buttons useful. It was very hard to see the enemy craft unless they were very close as well. I even turned off the debris and starfield options, but until they were under 2 kilometers away, you had no chance of seeing them. The objectives were hard to track. So many times I found that I'd failed a mission but didn't get any notification, so I kept playing, eventually ending the mission, only to find out that I failed it 20 minutes ago. And the AI in friendly ships is just so stupid. There was one mission where I needed to disable a certain ship. I needed to clear out some of the enemies first, but as soon as that was done, even though I still needed to disable the ship and there was a goddamn Star Destroyer hanging around, they hyperspaced home, leaving me to deal with the extra enemies that the Star Destroyer would eventually spawn. I had that much trouble with this game that after playing it for almost 8 hours, I was only up to mission 10 and I rage quit at the end of it, waiting for the friendly shuttle to leave but not being able to kill the enemy interceptors because they'd ignore me and go for the shuttle, but both the shuttle and the interceptors were faster than I was. I had no chance to catch the interceptors before they blew up the shuttle. And yes, you heard right, I didn't finish this game. The first time I failed to do so in this series. Part of me is sad that I went back to play X-Wing again. I have so many great memories of playing this as a kid, but it has not aged well. The graphics are clunky and it's hard to see what you're shooting. I found myself relying on instruments, but even that wasn't a good indication of where a craft is. Replaying X-Wing doesn't ruin the memories I had of it, but it is disappointing to see a game I love so much fall so hard, especially considering Dark Forces, which I reviewed not so long ago, was so good still, and there's only 2 years between X-Wing and Dark Forces. It has gotten me very excited for Squadron, which should be out now, so you should go buy it. My experience may not have been the same, but I still love Star Wars flight sims. X-Wing gets the Star Wars playtime rating of Return to Tatooine. Honestly, man, I've the memory of a goldfish, hey? Oh, Korolev! Okay, so one of the things that I love about the old Star Wars canon is how everything took inspiration from everything else. So there was a book series called X-Wing that followed Rogue Squadron, and one of the first scenes in the book was someone doing a simulator run of this particular mission, man. And that was just amazing that they could do that. Someone took in something from another medium and crossed it over, and wasn't just like a continuation of a story. It was just like a little cool, Easter egg reference.